Alrighty, think we're up. Okay. How do I go full screen this? I thought there was a way to do that. Oh well. Okay. Alrighty. So just watched the most recent episode of What If, and I haven't been reviewing any of the other ones, mostly just because I don't really know what this format really is or like what I'm going to talk about. I only want to talk about stuff that I'm like passionate about kind of in the moment. I don't really plan videos out. And apart from the first two, I haven't been passionate one way or the other about any episodes of What If. I've been watching them all kind of, cautiously pessimistic, knowing they could be pretty bad. But there's been a couple good ones. Basically the next one I saw, I want to say was episode 3. I think a lot of people would probably agree is arguably the best one so far. Is What If the Avengers or Earth's Mightiest Heroes never met or something, or they died? It's the one where, spoiler alert, by the way, for the entire stream, I'm just going to be going through What If episodes. So if you haven't seen them, go watch them if you want. Otherwise, we're going to talk about it. So, yeah, and that's the one where Hank Pym essentially kills all the Avengers because his daughter died working for S.H.I.E.L.D. That was pretty good. That was a fun episode. Well, I'll get into it. But basically, I haven't made any more videos because none of them have been good or bad enough to spark a very, very strong reaction out of me. So I didn't really feel compelled to make a video. Most recent one, that changed. Again, it was really terrible. So I guess leading up to that, I'm going to kind of skim through all the episodes up to this point and just give you my thoughts on them. Probably not going to go too in depth without all of them. And then we'll get to the most recent one. What if, what's it called? I think it's like, What If Ultron, blah, 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 something or other. I don't actually remember the title of the episode. Yeah, What If Ultron won, which we'll get there. All right, so going back through, did Captain Carter, did T'Challa. Okay, so yeah, we'll just start there. What if the world lost its mightiest heroes? The one where I actually really like that episode. It's decent enough. It's still got the very goofy, forced humor that they just seem to think any Marvel property needs to have. Just really bad jokes that don't always land. But I liked that one a lot because it did the what if concept justice. It changes one little thing and it moves forward from there. And it says, okay, how would that affect the timeline based on where we put it, where that story starts and where it ends? And I think it was an interesting premise. I think all the characters act the way you would expect them to act. It mostly focuses on Black Widow and Nick Fury. And I think it serves them justice. Sam Jackson's just as good as he ever was. It's not Scarlett Johansson who plays Black Widow, but it's a good facsimile. I think it's, I always forget her name, but she's in so many things. But she's good. She's a good actress, and I think she does a good job sort of doing a facsimile of Scarlett Johansson's voice. And she does things in that episode that I would expect Black Widow to do. She does spy stuff. She's, gathering information. She's investigating. She's being sneaky. She's not, running around being like a commando or whatever. But, yeah, like I said, I don't really have very strong feelings on that episode. I thought it was a good one. I like the twist. I like the fact that they make a very cool use of Ant-Man's powers, which they kind of continue to do. There's some running threads throughout these episodes where it seems like, because I believe they're all written and produced by the same couple guys, the showrunner and the head writer, whose names escape me, but who don't have a lot of credits to their names, and they're really hit and miss on the show, which is the thing. Some are awful. Some of the episodes are so bad, I can't believe they made it out of the writer's room. And then some of them are pretty competent. I'm like, that's not a bad idea. That's pretty cool. I think that still stands out as probably the best episode. Loki acts like Loki in it. Loki is a conqueror. He's a trickster. He's a villain. That, he's not completely bloodthirsty and awful, but I like the fact that it all lines up with where that story takes place, which, if you don't know, there was a tie-in comic to the Avengers that came out just prior to its release. And they would do that for a lot of Marvel movies going forward, where they would essentially take whichever character was relevant to the upcoming film, and they would do just sort of a little prequel tie-in comic that would tell you what they were doing just prior to that movie, or just post that movie, or whatever. And for the Avengers, it was a comic called Fury's Big Week, which is basically all the events leading up to basically post Iron Man 2 and the Incredible Hulk, kind of in the middle of Thor, actually a little bit in the middle of the Incredible Hulk as well, um, leading up to the Avengers. And it's a really cool comic, and they kind of, that is more or less what this What If is. It takes that comic book. It's like, it is Fury's Big Week. It's that same week just prior to him forming the Avengers before Loki shows up. The big difference here being, they kind of changed the timeline of the movies, so it doesn't quite go the same way. Thor 1 doesn't happen the same way because it's the same week that Thor, the Incredible Hulk are taking place simultaneously. So Captain America hasn't been discovered yet. Iron Man's still around. Actually, I guess it's, maybe it is, well, I guess it isn't Fury's Big Week. It's like a little bit prior, because it basically starts off middle of Iron Man 2 when Tony would normally be getting the, cure to his whatever palladium poisoning that he's been giving himself from his faulty arc reactor. And Fury and Natasha give him the whatever the heck made up magic juju juice that fixes him and makes him better. But instead it kills him. And then from there we get that, like, okay, so something's altering the events leading up to Avengers. Somebody's targeting the Avengers. And I just really like the fact that they're able to move the pieces around in a way that would make sense. So Tony's dead. He's out. Then you've got Hulk and Thor. Thor comes back to get his hammer. So we're in the middle of Thor 1. That's happening simultaneously with Iron Man 2, which it was in the films. And then Thor's killed by Hawkeye, which then sparks Loki, who is currently in charge of Asgard because Odin's in the Odin sleep. Whereas in the movie, he's, being looked at villainously because he is. He's got a plot brewing. But once Thor dies, like whatever Loki was planning is off the table, then he's able to use the death of Thor as an excuse to invade Earth and take over. And because Thor was just killed, all the people who were plotting against him in the movie, Sif and the Warriors 3, they're immediately on board. They're like, oh, no. Asgard's going to war with Earth. Like, this takes precedence. Like, whatever differences we have with Loki, Thor just got killed. Like, we're going to go kick Earth's ass because they think that, the humans have just declared war on Asgard. And it's really cool. And he responds that way. And Fury responds that way. He's like, okay, we're being invaded. And I just like the way everybody sort of behaves in that. Everybody's, everybody's on point in that episode. I think it's pretty well written. What's the next episode? Okay, then the one after that was What If Doctor Strange? What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? I didn't hate that episode because it was a pretty decent exploration of Doctor Strange. I liked where they went with it. I liked that plot. I just think the way they used it as a what if. Again, they don't really understand the way events play out, or they're not thinking about it, or they don't care. I don't know, but it kind of seems like sometimes they just forget that, like, the whole premise of what if is you have to take what was already there and build off of it. You got to take the thing that did happen, change one little thing, and then it happens differently. The thing that happened differently in that episode was, rather than Doctor Strange going by himself to that medical conference or whatever it is in his film, where he gets in the car accident and ruins his hands, he takes Christine Palmer as sort of a way of making up and, trying to rekindle their romance. So she goes with him. The car crash still happens, and Christine dies. Problem with that is Christine dies, but Steven doesn't hurt his hands. But then the plot of Doctor Strange plays out exactly the way it did in the movie. And that all happens. This is prequel to the episode. That happens off screen. It plays out exactly the same. He goes to Kamar-Taj, gets his training, learns the ways of the mystic arts, gets attacked by Caecilius, Ancient One dies, fights Dormammu, gets the Time Stone. All plays out exactly the way it does in the movie. And then from there, he's thinking about Christine and going, oh, I wish I could save her. I wish there was a way to go back and fix it. That's where they fuck up. Because the actual episode and what happens in it, how far he goes to bring her back and what he does, and he basically starts exploring every facet of magic, seeing if there is a way to either change the past or bring somebody back from the dead. And I like that. That's a really cool, like, that would have made a great Doctor Strange comic, or like a great episode of a Doctor Strange cartoon of him just sort of, you know, bowing to the sin of hubris and creating this sort of ugly situation for himself where he's trying to tempt fate. He's trying to change what is. The problem I think with it is, though, is again, they're not thinking about the butterfly effect of their timeline when they change stuff. If Christine died and Stephen, a doctor, a man of medicine, who, even though he's a surgeon, he took a Hippocratic oath, he's a doctor, certain things he believes that make him the man who he is and why he pursued a career in medicine. So Christine dies, but his hands are fine. The whole reason he went out and sought out Carmitage and the mystic arts was to heal himself so that he could get his career back, because he poured all of his money and all of his resources into expensive experimental surgeries and therapeutic treatments and ways to fix his hands so he could be a surgeon again. And it's only when he's used all of his money, he's basically bankrupt himself trying to fix his problem, he starts turning to the mystical. More explicitly, he finds that guy, Alan Pangborn, the guy whose surgery he passed on because he was like, I can't fix your spine, you're fucked. Then he finds that guy and he's walking around and he tells him, hey, how'd you fix it? And he says, magic. Go to this place, they'll teach you. And then he goes and he learns magic. All because of that inciting incident of him losing his hands and his hubris and his inability to let go of the fact that he's not going to be the best surgeon in the world anymore. Now, I don't know about you. Rachel McAdams is fine in that movie. And they have a nice little chemistry. They don't seem like fated to be destined lovers. You know, they seem like they had a nice, fun relationship, but obviously it was an adult relationship. Shit gets in the way. They're both busy doctors. They didn't connect quite on that level. They weren't like madly in love. Now, maybe Steven would be regretful and he would think, I could have married that woman. Now she's dead and I don't know what to do. I have a hard time believing that his immediate solution to his once and future on again, off again girlfriend dying would be, I'm going to go become a necromancer and bring that bitch back from the dead. I don't think that's what he does. I think he moves on with his life and stays a happy, successful, rich, brilliant surgeon and moves on, and then Doctor Strange never happens. And maybe the world is destroyed. I don't know. It'd be hard to track how that movie would play out if he never became a sorcerer. From memory, Caecilius is looking to draw power from Dormammu, and he's attacking all the sanctums because of reasons I forget. I think it is to bring Dormammu, bring the Dark Dimension to Earth. So yeah, I think if he doesn't become a sorcerer, the world like explodes, or the Ancient One stops him. I'm not sure. I mean, she did get killed, but she might have gotten killed because she was trying to save Stephen. It's been a while since I've seen the movie. Point being, things would have been very, very different if he didn't screw up his hands. Now, if he had screwed up his hands and she died, maybe he would have gone down a similar path. It's hard to say. I think the smarter thing to do, I just think it wouldn't, this plot for Doctor Strange, like I said, it could be a comic, it could be a cartoon, it could be whatever. It could be another movie. I think it could work as a Doctor Strange story. I just don't think it works as a what if story because it by nature requires the whole timeline of events to change. Now, one little tweak, presume that you still want to do this what if episode. You still want, you'd have to change the title because the title is dumb. What if he lost his heart instead of his hands? But if you want to do the same thing, what you could do is in the hospital fight scene where she's bringing him back to life and he's like having like an astral projection fight with that other sorcerer, you could have her fix him, bring him back, and then she gets killed by another sorcerer in that scene shortly afterwards. That way Christine still dies. The rest of the movie can play out. Strange can save the day, become the Sorcerer Supreme, and the arbiter of the Sanctum Sanctorum in New York. And then he could be regretful over Christine's death and say, "Can I fix this? Can I go back? Was there a way I could have saved her?" And then you just have the whole episode play out, because what actually happens in the episode I really, really like. He tries to use the time stone to go back and basically change the past, which you can't do, which follows up with Endgame, where they're like, there is no changing the past. It doesn't work. It's going to play out the way it plays out. And that seems to be the case. He keeps trying to alter it, and no matter what he does, she dies. There's no fixing it. So then I believe he tries to, I don't know if he uses the time stone or he does something else, but I always have a conversation with the Ancient One. And he basically goes back in time to the source of sorcery, to Agamotto, and is basically just using the well of knowledge that is magic. He's finding every book, every tome, every spell, every scroll, finding all these magical creatures and artifacts and spell books, and like just absorbing all this crazy dark magical energy, and turns himself into this like horrible dark sorcerer supreme. And that's a really cool idea. And then I think the Ancient One, like, because I don't know, she needs fucking control time, I guess. I don't criticize this one too harshly. I'm sure if I watched it again and nitpicked, I could find a lot of things that don't make sense or some inconsistencies, but there weren't any from my initial watch from what I remember. But then she splits off the timeline. So this is an alternate timeline within this alternate timeline where there's a regular Doctor Strange and then this evil, super uber magic dark sorcerer Doctor Strange. And then they fight and he wins. And then I guess that dark, I think he gets trapped in another dimension or something, or like a cocoon of his own making or something like that. And then he goes away. And like I said, it's not a terrible episode. It's not great. I liked the plot for Doctor Strange, him trying to, bring basically the Doctor Strange fucking with necromancy, trying to bring back the dead. I think that's a really cool idea. And I think the episode did it fairly well. I just think the setup didn't make any sense, which was the what if, which, yeah, I just don't think any of that would happen. But if it did, it'd have been cool, but it wouldn't, so it shouldn't. That's kind of my take on that episode. Okay. And then after that one, what came after that? What if zombies? Now, I'm not going to say that one's a bad episode, but it's not a good one either. It does some cool stuff, but then you have the pretty same requisite bad, generic assembly line Marvel brand humor and characters acting just really out of tone with what's happening, which is, of course, there's a zombie virus that somehow infects the Marvel Universe, which the way it all happens, I like. It's sort of throwaway, like there's no proof of it, but sure, why not? A zombie virus could come from anywhere. It's a big, wide Marvel Universe. I don't have a problem with how it happens. Basically, it's kind of sad. In Ant-Man 2, when they go to the quantum realm, Janet Van Dyne's and she's sorry, I just got out of breath for like no reason. She's contracted some sort of weird quantum virus that turns her into a zombie. Then she bites Hank. Hank comes back. He bites Scott. Hope escapes. But then again, really cool use of tiny Hank Pym powers, showing like how fucking. I remember he says it in the first Ant-Man movie, and it's proven to be true in these What If episodes. The Pym particle size shifting technology and all of its potential applications is a world-ending technology that, if used properly or by the right people or the wrong people, is so much more dangerous than an Iron Man suit. Like, Iron Man suit, really cool weapon. It doesn't have the world-changing ramifications that Pym particles do. Like, they could really fuck up the planet if they got into the wrong hands. Case in point, itty-bitty, almost impossible to perceive Hank Pym spreads this zombie virus around, because similar kind of to the Marvel Zombies comic book, they're not sentient, they're not aware of themselves, but they are able to still use all of their technology and abilities. Like, they still have the muscle memory of what they did when they were alive. So Hank Pym can still shrink and grow and fly and do all the things that his suit allows him to do. So little itty bitty tiny Hank Pym bites the Avengers when they go to stop the zombies that have been spreading in San Francisco. They all get fucking attacked and bitten. And that's kind of cool. Like, they still keep the zombies a threat while still making it, kid friendly. It's bluish, weird, cartoony blood. Fine. they still managed to do some pretty gory shit with the zombies, which is really cool. But my problem is, again, all the characters still act like the world's not ending. Everybody's very jokey because they have to be, because that's what Marvel thinks, that you're too fucking dumb to. You're too. Everybody who watches, children and adults alike, are too emotionally immature to sit with like some dark consequences of what the characters are going through for like 2 minutes, just 2 minutes where you don't have to throw a laugh at us. That's all we're asking for. Peter Parker's obnoxious. I'm glad he's in it. And he does act mostly in character, but he is just, and they do use it as sort of a plot point at the end, like Peter using jokes to deal with pain. But the problem is he's not the only one doing it. Everybody's jokey. Everybody's being a goofball. And that whole little zombie apocalypse, like, onboarding video Peter made with Kurt from Ant-Man, like, it was funny, but it just seemed really tonally weird and kind of out of character insofar as, like, I don't think that Peter would do that. Like, yes, Peter uses humor to hide his feelings and, act like everything's fine, but I don't know that he would put the effort it would take, nor would any of the other characters like Bucky or Sharon Carter allow Peter to be that ridiculous when there's like better uses of their time to survive this zombie apocalypse. But overall, no, I think that's a pretty good episode, and some really cool things happen. Some other characters do some really dumb stuff that I don't know why they would do. In particular, I only noticed it watching it the second time with a friend, but when Vision rips the stone out of his own head to give it to the Avengers so they could escape, there's like no reason for him to do that. He could just leave. Like, he could just go with them, I think. I mean, you could maybe argue that Scarlet Witch might be able to control him because she has kind of shown an ability in the past, since their powers kind of technically come from the same source, that like she can influence the Mind Stone. But at the same time, that whole thing was pretty much entirely retconned in WandaVision because she's actually just magic. And the Mind Stone just like enhanced her powers or unlocked them for her or something. Which I guess you could maybe still argue, like, yeah, there's some sort of residual energy now in her powers. Like, she's supercharged by the Mind Stone, so she's able to influence it still. I don't know. That's the only one I could really point to that was, like, kind of weird. But overall, I like the fact that Vision went full freaking, just, like, meat farm and, like, was drawing people in to feed them to Wanda. A zombie Scarlet Witch was pretty terrifying. Scott was obnoxious when he comes back as a head in a jar. It's funny, but he's still, yeah. The humor is what really kills the show, is because the art style switches back and like between the art style and the humor, they switch back and forth between being like kind of dark, kind of serious, kind of dramatic, but also like really just over the top with the jokes. I could use less of it, but yeah, overall the zombies episode is not bad. I don't really have a whole lot more to say about it. Okay. So I have something I kind of want to discuss a little bit and parse out, because I'm not quite sure what the answer is, but I have this feeling where it seems like with this show, because it's one of the only things that they're putting out right now, they're really, really pushing Wakanda. And why they're doing that, I couldn't say for sure. Because before Chadwick Boseman's death, it was very clear going forward, Wakanda, Black Panther, all that whole part of the lore was going to play a big part in the MCU moving forward. So I expected that then. When he died, though, obviously that kind of threw a wrench into things. I know they're still planning on making Black Panther 2. Don't know how. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm still not clear if they're planning on recasting or just maybe putting somebody else in the suit. I don't know if T'Challa will be dead canonically. I don't know how else they could possibly write him out. It might seem a little too soon. I personally would just say, hey, Black Panther had cancer. Like, just keep his story the same as Chadwick's story, because I think it would be one of those things that would maybe not a lot of people would buy, but honestly, I think it could be powerful if done well. Insofar as you could just say, hey, man, Actually, I think it would work well because they literally already did in a comic with another character, the death of Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel, Marvel of the Kree Empire. He gets cancer and he dies. And the rest of the Marvel Universe has to deal with it. This guy, this ultra powerful alien from the stars who came to Earth to, help us and fight for justice and keep us safe, he gets cancer and he dies. He dies a slow, boring, sad, ugly death. And he rails against it and he gets pissed that he's like, I can't die this way. Like, this isn't fair. Any other way would have been better. Like, in battle, saving someone's life, but I'm just going to get sick and die. Like, that's not how a hero is supposed to die. And I think if you were to do that, I think people would understand. And I think it would be powerful if you just said, yeah, T'Challa had cancer and he died unexpectedly. And the world is just suffered. The Marvel Universe has suffered a great loss. Nobody saw that coming and nobody knew what to do about it. With how OP Wakanda is, I think there's a few assholes out there who would be like, well, Wakanda didn't invent a cure for cancer. They invented a cure for spinal injuries with a bullet. Put some balls in his body, get the cancer at some magic Wakanda balls. But I do think that that's one way moving forward. Or they could recast. I would prefer that they wrote T'Challa out somehow. And as dumb as this would be, because it would mean they could have probably just saved T'Challa. Bring Killmonger back. Say he didn't die or they saved him or something. Like they kept him on ice in case they needed him. And now they need him. And now he's going to be the heir. But point being, I think moving forward, I don't know if it was because they thought they were going to do a lot more because they didn't know Boseman was sick. So they had a lot of plans for Wakanda and Black Panther and that whole mythos. But yeah, this show has just a lot of Black Panther in it. Like there's a lot of very Wakanda-centric episodes. He was a big part of the Zombies episode. He had his whole episode where he was Star-Lord, which was fucking terrible. Watch that video. And then this episode, another very Wakanda-centric, not necessarily T'Challa-centric, but very Wakanda-centric episode. What if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? So, which is funny too, because this just really just ends up being Black Panther again, but a little different. But yeah, it seems like they really want to tell more stories there. So I'm not in a skeptical way. I'm just genuinely curious if it was because they thought they were going to have more time with him and they could do more stuff is why they're pushing all this stuff, or just because, I mean, I guess you could say it's identity politics, but I don't know. I don't think Marvel's so down that road that they would continue to push any and all things Wakanda just because there's Black people in it without the main character. I don't know that they would put all their eggs in that basket, knowing what few stories they can tell now without T'Challa in the universe. But anyway, yeah, on that episode, I kind of liked that episode. It was towards the end, it started to annoy me because it really does just become Black Panther 2 again. And trying to remember about the ending. I feel like the ending it ends on like kind of a dour note. I can't remember exactly what happens. But anyway, yeah, that one's pretty cool. It starts off with that scene from Iron Man 1 with the attack in Afghanistan where the convoy gets attacked by the 10 Rings. And then, out of nowhere, Killmonger's there. Again, I wish they would just change the character models, because they have shown that they do this when it's necessary, when a character needs to look different, so I don't know why they don't just do it all the time. But Killmonger looks exactly like Killmonger for Black Panther. Rather than a Navy SEAL on a mission, he looks like a dude who's gone off the grid and is wearing like kind of a piecemeal thrown together uniform that it's his clothing. Because the way he's dressed in that movie, he's wearing that blue shirt, the combat pants, he has crazy dread do, that custom body armor. And for that movie, I'm like, yeah, that's his look. That's how he likes to dress. He's clearly like gone off the map. He's gone AWOL. He's doing his own thing. But in this, I'm like, he's supposed to be like an on active duty Navy SEAL who got some intelligence about the attack on Tony Stark and then intervened. Which again, I don't, if he's still currently in the Navy, I don't know that he could do that without orders, but hey, it's a comic book universe. I guess you can just do whatever you want when you're a Navy SEAL, which is kind of true. Not really. But then he saves Tony, and then they build a relationship. He helps expose Obadiah Stane. That's how he knew. And then you discover as Killmonger gets closer to Tony, as they start to innovate stuff at the company, he kind of planned this all along. He knew Tony Stark was his in to Wakanda. He knew that that would get him in. Like, that's the person who could give him the weapons and the strength he needed to take back his homeland and sort of change things. He still is in league with Claw, and that's part of it. Is they need more vibranium. So Tony, yeah, a couple things that bothered me with that. I don't know anything about Killmonger from the comics. I actually just picked up a trade of the original Jungle Action mini series that he had in the 70s or 80s. I think it was 70s. Haven't gotten to that yet, but I know that's the first appearance of Killmonger, so that's kind of why I got it. Was I wanted to read up on that, but I don't know a whole lot about Killmonger. I don't know that he's like a very smart or inventive villain. But in this, because he has to be, because he's just special and great at everything. Because I was going to say, he's a black character. Black characters are all black people are prodigies in the Marvel universe. Everyone's the best at everything. He's not only a Navy SEAL, he's also as smart as Tony Stark, and he has like a mechanical engineering degree or something, master's from MIT. So he helps Tony build big giant freaking anime style mecha suits, mecha drones that look kind of like beefed up versions of the Hammer drones. Not to take down Wakanda, I guess, just as, a project for the military. I can't remember exactly why they do it. But then they need to go get vibranium because he recommends that would be the best thing to build them out of. So they do a deal with Claw, who Tony kind of knows and doesn't know that Killmonger knows, and there's sort of a double cross. He kills Rhodey, who catches on to things and is suspicious of Killmonger. He kills Claw, I think. He kills T'Challa. He kills Black Panther because Tony builds him a vibranium like sound wave gun, kind of like Claw has in the comics sometimes, and just kills Black Panther, which I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility. If he had Stark technology, maybe he could have just killed Black Panther at any time. I guess that means Tony could kill Black Panther at any time, but that's also only because Tony is introduced to vibranium by Killmonger. And then basically the rest of Black Panther plays out, except with no Black Panther, which is he takes Claw's body to Wakanda. He's welcomed back as king, basically, because T'Chaka's still alive because Civil War hasn't happened. This is like 2008, 2009-ish. So, yeah. No Captain America yet, no Avengers, no Iron Man. So probably never in Avengers, because the events of Thor and Captain America and the Incredible Hulk could still play out, but without Tony, I don't know if things would really kick off the way they do in that movie. So no Avengers. T'Chaka's still alive. And I guess because of the guilt he feels about what he did to his father, he's pretty welcoming to Eric and brings him into the family. And they're a little skeptical at first. But for memory, I don't think there's any double cross there. I think he comes home to Wakanda, and then I think in retaliation. Oh, that's right. I forgot about the whole thing with Tony Stark. So Tony figures out what Eric's doing and tries to kill him, and then Eric ends up killing Tony. So because he assassinated Tony Stark, the U.S. government is like, okay, we're taking down this guy. And they follow him to Wakanda. They discover Wakanda, and then there's basically the U.S. government with those drones that Eric built is going to war with Wakanda, and then they win. Cool. The fighting in that I thought was where it got really annoying and dumb, because everybody is just a great fighter. Oh yeah, T'Challa's mom's a general, because again, every black person's a multifaceted prodigy. They're all great at everything. None of them have any flaws because they're Wakandan, and Wakandans are super black people from the future who are just amazing. Don't question it, they are. And she's fighting and killing all these robots, and they're just taking on these giant drones with just those standard vibranium spears that the Wakandans have. But it's all just like one-hit kills because it's a big battle and everybody needs to look awesome. So it's like that's the part of a big problem I have with the show is the combat is so floaty and just kind of nebulous, where it's like, yeah, they did it. Anyone can do anything, and it doesn't really matter. Don't question it. They just can, okay? They're going to. So they win. Uh, I want to say I don't remember if anything happens to T'Chaka or Rwanda. I think maybe he kills them. I don't know. I can't remember. No, I saw it once. But I do know that Killmonger is essentially inaugurated as the king. He becomes the Black Panther. Shuri, I believe, escapes because she knows he's kind of sketchy. He's up to something. Then she goes to America, and her and Pepper Potts are going to take down Killmonger, blah, blah, blah. It's an okay episode. It's not my favorite. I kind of liked exploring the idea of his relationship with Tony, but once that was over and it was just Black Panther 1.5, I was just kind of, oh, okay, I've seen this. It's not really anything. Oh. Yeah, that one's all right. It's not bad. Okay, then there was the one from last week, which I don't even really have a problem with, other than the fact that it's kind of indicative of the way they tell stories now, which is they're not telling Marvel stories anymore, if that makes any sense. What they're doing is they're just using the branding. They're using the characters as a vehicle to tell whatever stories they want, whether or not it makes sense for those characters, whether or not it makes sense in the universe, whether or not it's cool or interesting, or like it would be a fun comic book story. It's just, let's tell a cliche, archetypical story, Marvel style. And that's what If Thor Were an Only Child is. This episode's rife with problems, but I won't lie, it got a few chuckles out of me. It's not good. I wouldn't say I like it as an episode. Some funny things happen in it, but it's so inconsistent with the timeline. There's so many things that couldn't possibly happen that I can't even remember or list them all. Oh, yeah. And something suspicious, and I'm going to get to this. You wouldn't notice. I honestly didn't notice until just now, just thinking back. But there are so many characters in that episode. Let's back up. Okay, so the premise is, what if Thor were an only child? What they posit here is that if Thor hadn't grown up with Loki, if Odin had given Loki back to the Frost Giants, and Thor had just been raised as the sole prince of Asgard, he would be something. That's the best way I can put it. They don't tell you. And Thor doesn't behave really any differently than he was in Thor 1. And the events of Thor 1 don't happen the same, but I don't know why or when it takes place or what I'm supposed to think. Because it doesn't really, it's not one of those, you know what I mean? It's really not a what if at all. The idea that something needs to change is really not even inherent to the plot of this episode. What this episode is they wanted to have a fun party episode with Thor. Which, okay, fine, I guess. No reason not to do that. But yeah, it does require everybody to act very out of character. And like I said, the what if premise doesn't enter into what happens. This could have happened if Loki were still there. This doesn't affect anything. This has nothing to do with who Thor is as a person or how he would be differently if he hadn't grown up with Loki. Because it's not as though he's acting any crazier than he did before. But also, even if he had, it's not like Loki tempered his attitude or his behavior. Loki was he's the god of mischief. He would have been just as mischievous. They would have had just as much fun, goofy adventures just like this one. So the whole Loki thing really doesn't matter. Like, that's what I mean. It's not a what if because the what if doesn't affect what happens in this episode. It was just, we clearly want to tell this story and do this thing. And for that, we just have to say it takes place in another universe. Which, okay, fine. And then they do. So Thor, kind of like in Thor 1, presumably would have been around the same time, but with no Loki. I guess that's what you can say, is that the reason Loki affects the plot is because Loki's not there. And then Loki's integral to the plot of Thor 1. Everything that happens in that film is set into motion by Loki. Apart from the ceremony crowning Thor the new king of Asgard, which is not happening in this, maybe because it's happening earlier, or just because maybe Odin wasn't ready to I don't know. They don't say why, but point being, Odin's going into the Odin sleep. And rather than that being treated like the very serious, precarious danger, actually, maybe that's what it is. There's a line in Thor 1 where Odin, Frigga says that Odin's been putting off the sleep or like trying to fight it for a while because he didn't think Thor was ready to take the throne. And yet he is giving him the throne in Thor 1, meaning he doesn't think Thor's ready, but it's time. He can't wait any longer. He needs Thor to take over. He has to have his rest. It's time to sleep. Thor needs to take it. And then Loki sends the Frost Giants to screw up the festival, blah, blah, blah. The plot of Thor 1 happens. So I suppose in this, it could be earlier than that. It wasn't time to pass the throne to Thor, and it's just time for the Odin sleep. It's just that period of rest. He needs it. But rather than that being treated like the very serious, very precarious time in Asgard that it is, they don't give a shit. Thor's going to go have a party and Frigga's having a girls' weekend on another planet or something. Like, they just don't give a fuck. Bye, Odin. See ya. See you when you wake up, you old fucker. It's just treated like this throwaway gag. And then it turns into fucking a John Hughes movie. It turns into fucking Weird Science or Risky Business. Like, okay, parents are going out of town. Time to fucking have a rager. And Thor is supposed to be doing his, like, I don't know, king homework. I don't know he's supposed to study. I literally don't know. Like his kingly duties or whatever. Frigga gives him king homework, which he says he's totally going to do. And then she fucks off with her buddies on a vacation. And then Thor and his buddies fuck off on a vacation and have like a Rick and Morty style fucking apocalypse party, just raging tour of the galaxy, just having a party on like every planet. Oh, I'm just remembering there's a plot thread in this. I don't know if they ever actually followed up on something about them blowing up a planet, but then maybe it was just an asteroid. I can't remember. I don't know if they resolve it. There's no weight to this episode. It is just a goofy romp of Thor doing a high school movie. Which, again, like I said, it's funny. And there are some jokes that got a chuckle out of me. But it is still a case of, like, a bunch of dumb leaps in logic and, like, just very flat, like, one-note references to other characters who've been, like, cosmic characters who've been in the movie so far. And yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So it kind of starts with Thor 1, Jane, out in the desert with Darcy, looking at the sky, studying radiation patterns, waiting for what they think is the Einstein-Rosen bridge, the Bifrost portal to Earth. And Eric Selvig's not there, her mentor. He's not there. I don't know why. It's just Darcy and Jane. Rather than Thor landing in New Mexico where they are, he lands in Vegas with his buddies, and they just start fucking killing it, just having a party. And then, like, a bunch of people from other planets, like people from the Guardians movies, the Ravagers. Every character from space. Every not evil character from space. And even a couple questionable ones. Show up and have a party. Except for Star-Lord. Like I said, I only realized a couple minutes ago, Star-Lord's not in that episode. He does not show up. Gamora shows up. Nebula shows up. Actually, maybe Gamora doesn't show up. But Nebula shows up. Drax shows up. I don't remember Rocket and Groot showing up. I don't know. The Grand Master shows up. Everybody from Sakaar, Korg, Meek. And the Grand Master is really annoying. He's just saying dumb stuff that's not even like things he would say. They're just like goofy, stupid jokes. Yeah. And chaos ensues. And then Jane meets... They like do the Hangover. Like, Jane bangs Thor because he's hot and rich and he's a prince from space. And like, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you? And then it's just like S.H.I.E.L.D. shows up because she called them earlier, wondering if they knew what was going on. And then they show up after she's already slept with Thor and she's like in bed with the enemy because this is now, as opposed to Thor 1, this is now Earth's first contact with space, with the Asgardians. Is them having a fucking crazy cosmic space bender, just going on a fucking drinking binge through space. And they're immediately like, yeah, they're fucking partying like on every continent and they're fucking everything up. Like they're gonna destroy the planet with their partying. Which again, it's kind of a funny idea. It does require you to be like, I guess everybody in space is just a fucking goddamn idiot heathen who will just like blow up a planet with a crazy raging party. Howard the Duck shows up. Howard the Duck, who I think, again, they're just really pushing space. He's been in like 3 episodes. Howard the Duck shows up, and how many episodes has Howard been in? Okay, so he's in this one. He wasn't in Zombies. He might have been the Doctor Strange one. I don't remember. He was in the T'Challa one. I don't know. But Howard the Duck is something that I know, like, I've talked to some friends who disagree with me. They're like, you don't fucking need Howard the Duck in the goddamn MCU. But I just think because they brought him in for Guardians 1 and then Guardians 2, and they got Seth Green, who's a great voice actor and character actor, to play him, and they just have never really utilized that. They're using him as much as they can in What If, because they're like, yeah, you got a fucking, like, Emmy-nominated, like, primetime voice actor like Seth Green on Family Guy. And you cast him as Howard the Duck, who is a character who literally can just pop up and be ridiculous and then leave. Like, he doesn't have to have a huge plot built around him. You can just use Howard in whatever capacity you like, and they don't really. So I think this episode I had to go a little soft on because of that. Howard's in it, and he fucking... I don't know if he actually sleeps with her, but he's like hitting on Darcy, and I think they go on a couple dates. He's just like trying to bang Kat Dennings, which don't blame him. It's just funny. But then eventually they shield. Oh, yeah. There's just a lot of little dumb stuff that I'm like, I can't remember enough of it to call all of it out. But like little stupid things happen. Like Fury is put out of commission because he goes to talk to Thor himself in Vegas and like gets injured at a party because Korg runs him over while jumping into a fountain. So then Maria Hill's the acting director, blah, blah, blah. And then basically after numerous tries to like calm things down and get them to leave and it doesn't work, they decide to pull out the one card they have because there's no Iron Man, I guess. Where is Tony? Tony doesn't even factor into this episode. It should take place around the time of Thor 1. I don't know where Tony is. Oh well. Guess they forgot about that. So, seemingly no Iron Man. Obviously, they can't count on the Hulk. And Thor is the problem. No Captain America yet. So their one and only solution is they're like, okay, call Captain Marvel. They have Fury's beeper. And she comes from outer space to like kick his ass. Which she pretty much does. And then I think their fight actually kind of comes to a standstill. Oh yeah, he beats her by doing the trick, putting the hammer on her. And then she's stuck. And then I skipped over some stuff. The whole Loki thing. The idea that, yes, Loki not factoring into the plot of Thor 1 would allow this to happen. Fair enough. Problem is, Loki's still around. Because Loki... So the what if premise was Odin gives Loki back to Laufey, King of the Frost Giants, as a peace offering, I guess. And then they make peace and they never go to war again. But the thing about that is Loki was left to die on Jotunheim by Laufey. He didn't care because Loki was like the runt of the litter. They're like a Spartan society almost. He was too tiny to survive. That's what Laufey thought anyway. He was going to let him die. He didn't care about his son. So giving him back wouldn't do anything. You know what I mean? Odin took him because otherwise he would have died. But anyway, he gives him back to Laufey. Laufey accepts him, but then Loki is raised on Jotunheim as a frost giant. So then you might think, okay, so Loki's been raised like every other frost giant, probably with a hatred for Asgardians, probably wanting to conquer them. Nope, him and Thor are bros now. They're super bros because they hang out all the time for reasons. And Loki looks like a giant, but like, yeah, they're just buddies. I don't know. And then he shows up and he's like partying with him, and he doesn't really factor in the plot at all. I just thought it was very weird to then bring Loki back in when you just said like the whole premise of the episode relies on him not being in Thor's life, not being an influence on Thor. That's the whole point. Loki's not there. But I guess if he'd been raised at home by his dad who wanted him dead, he would have been a better person, and then him and Thor would have hung out and been bros and went on adventures and had a great old time. No, I don't think so. But like I said, it doesn't really factor in at all. Okay, so yeah. Thor and Captain Marvel have a big punch up across the planet, and they fuck up like a whole lot of monuments. And then I think Frigga, like, she casts like an illusion or something, or uses some kind of magic to like check on Thor, and basically says like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing my homework." She's like, "Really? Because you're on Earth." And then it turns into every party movie cleanup scene where Frigga's coming to Earth to see if Thor is lying to her, because he says he's doing some kind of like cultural exchange on Earth as part of his education. So then him and all of his buddies have to like work really fast to clean up the planet before his mom gets there and busts him. Which is fun, but stupid. But like, I can't really refute it because this whole episode is just like actually in an alternate universe, like from our own, where like this is just a thing that happened, or there's like you just have to suspend all disbelief. Like this is, I don't know. That's just what's happening. Deal with it. We're doing a college movie. We're doing a party movie with Thor. But then the part that bothers me about it is, again, you have to like completely break all the rules of the Marvel Universe because Frigga's coming to Earth, and they show her coming to Earth on the Bifrost very slowly through space. Like she must have literally been in a different galaxy. Even though I'm pretty sure the Bifrost transport is like instantaneous. It's a fucking portal beam to Earth. Like it's teleportation. It just gets you there, but it's still taking her like exactly the 7 hours they need to clean up all of Earth. Which again, I mean, there are super people involved, so I'm willing to like accept, okay, so they were able to get around the world pretty fast. They have to like fix Stonehenge and shit. It's just so fucking ridiculous. And then I think it ends with Thor and Jane going on a second date and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not a lot happened. It's just kind of a fun, self-contained, ridiculous episode. It's kind of, I don't know. I don't even know if I liked it or if I hated it. It's just one that, like, the best way I can describe it is there's this movie that came out recently called Malignant. If you've seen it, maybe you'll know what I'm talking about. I can't classify that movie for you. I couldn't tell you if it's good or if it's bad. All I can tell you is I enjoyed it. So much happens in it, and so much of it was so unexpected, but still so well done that I'm like, there is some goofy shit in there, a little campy, but like the plot and the execution of it and what happens in that film is so fucking mental that I'm like, I enjoyed it, but I'm neutral on as to whether or not the quality was there. I'm like, was that a good movie I watched? I don't know. I had fun. I kind of feel that way about this What If episode. It was dumb and goofy and really annoying, but I didn't hate it. It's just like, it was stupid. No, I couldn't call that a good episode. It was funny though. There's some good cracks in there. But again, small details, but I got to point them out. No Selvig, no Star-Lord. Nick Fury's there. Coulson was there. Lots of like male figures are there. I think you could probably just argue, is it Peter Sarsgaard? Stellan Skarsgård, who plays Eric Selvig, probably just didn't want to come back, or he was busy or something. Chris Pratt's not busy. Chris Pratt could be in all of these episodes. But you know why he's not. Because he's a toxic white male. And by toxic, I mean he's a non-political Christian redneck. So toxic. So straight and white and toxic. So fucking piece of shit. Believing in God. Just being a guy who exists. Being a straight white man. Stupid Chris Pratt. They cut him out at every turn. They don't want him doing anything. I'll be surprised if Guardians 3 gets made. And it'll only be because James Gunn is contracted and he loves Chris Pratt and wants to make his movie. Disney hates him. Everybody hates him. They just want to get him out of everything possible. It's like that Mario shit going on right now. Anyway, I digress. Thought it was weird. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe I'm crazy. Okay, so we got all through all that. That's kind of my rapid fire. Not rapid fire. It's still been a fucking hour already. But that is my quick dissection of all the ones so far. Like I said, the two that I made videos on, those are the shit ones. The rest are fine. It's not a great show overall, What If. I think they really screw up the concept and it's a little too goofy. I don't love the animation style. But really, it was just those first two that were like unforgivable. Like I just thought they were really shit. The rest are mediocre to okay. I put on a scale like this when I was telling a friend of mine earlier when they were asking me about it. So far, the episodes have ranged like this for me. They've ranged from fun to stupid but harmless to bad to like YouTube video bad. Hence why we're here. The most recent episode of What If is wrong on so many fucking levels. We're going to go through it piece by piece. It's probably going to end up running up at 2 hours, but I'm going to go through it. I'm going to watch it again here and slowly stop and tell you why all of it's crap. Before that, though, I came to a realization that I need to kind of put into words to contextualize this. So I have a decent base of comics knowledge. I haven't read every comic in the world. But I look on like Wikipedia for summaries. I try to learn as much about the things I'm interested in as I can. I haven't read a lot of What If. Only whatever ones pop up in whatever trades I buy, because sometimes they'll be included if you get like a Daredevil trade or a Black Panther trade or a Fantastic Four trade. Sometimes they'll just include a What If in there. But I haven't like read the series back to back or anything like that. I don't read a whole lot of them. The Watcher, Uatu the Watcher, is a character who pops up in a lot of different stories. And it didn't quite occur to me because I just forget the context of a lot of the crazy cosmic stuff that happens in Marvel. But this show made me realize today what Disney is doing, hence the title of this episode, of this video. So, I'm going to put this flat out. Marvel Comics does not have a multiverse. They don't. That's a DC thing. And DC only has a multiverse as an excuse to clean up all the fucking mistakes they've made over the years. The whole reason DC established the multiverse back in like the 70s or the 80s or whatever it was, right before they tried to fix it all with Crisis on Infinite Earths, was to explain all the crappy stories over the years. To say, hey, this weird Superman story where he acts like a total dickhead, it was on another Earth. This story where Batman had like 7 rainbow costumes, all the different color of the rainbow that gave him different powers that he had to switch to every day. That happened in a different Earth. That's not real. It was a way to excuse all the weird stuff they did, all the mistakes they'd made since 1933. They could put it over here in this nice little corner and say, that didn't happen on your mainstream universe where we tell good stories you like. This happened over there. So don't worry about it. And then Crisis on Infinite Earths was an attempt to go, all that crap, all the stuff we're ashamed of, done, gone, out the window. No more multiverse. We fixed it. We're telling stories on one Earth in one universe. That's it. Everything's canon from here on out. Except for all the stuff that we decanonized but then said still happened because DC's really bad at reboots. They do it all the time. They've done it like 4 times already where they try to say, I like this, but I don't like that. Get that out of here. We'll keep that one. That one can go in. No, not you. No, get out. Not that. They'll pick and choose and take what they want to take and make this canon and that not canon. And if it's successful, it's canon. That's typically the way it goes. That's DC's thing. DC uses the multiverse as a creative excuse to ignore the bad stuff, preserve the good stuff. Marvel doesn't do that. It's all canon. All the good, all the bad, it happened. Deal with it. Except for the shit they rewrite in certain stories or retcon or blah, blah, blah. Like, there are retcons, don't get me wrong. But every story in Marvel in 616, that all happened. Now, this is going to sound confusing. I'm going to try to explain it the best way I can. Marvel does tell alternate universe stories, so to speak. They will tell a self-contained story that isn't canon, sometimes on a different publishing line. The biggest example of that is the Ultimate Universe. Now, the Ultimate Universe... the Ultimate Universe kind of screwed that up when they decided to merge the two and say that these are two separate universes that exist in the same multiverse and can be combined. And that's exactly what they did. They took all the shit they liked from Ultimate Marvel, brought it over to 616, and then blew up that universe, and it doesn't exist anymore. Then they did Secret Wars, and now there's a fucking multiverse again, or for the first time, however way you want to look at it. But prior to that stuff, is it Cataclysm or is it End of Ultimate End or something? I'm not sure. The one where Galactus comes in and fucks everything up. Prior to that, every book that Marvel has published that is not main 616 Marvel Universe canon is just a different publishing line. The Max imprint, 1602, What If, name a thing, MC2 universe. They'll create pocket universes, but they're not like... Marvel doesn't try to canonically explain how they all coexist. There's alternate universes, and you can go there, and one day they're going to meet. But then they did do it, but for the longest time, that's not what they did, and that was never the context of What If. So the Watcher, Uatu, he is a cosmic being who observes his universe, our universe, the 616 Marvel universe. He can see all. He can be anywhere and go experience anything in that one singular universe. He's not a multiversal being. He can view all of the 616 Marvel universe, every galaxy, every corner of space, and all its possibilities. What he does in What If, because here's the thing too, What If doesn't try to frame itself as hey, maybe we'll do more of this someday. It's more like a creative exercise. It was where they would put a lot of their younger or newer writers and artists to kind of test their mettle and say, hey, tell me a story about if this happened to Hulk over there. Go show me how good you are. That's kind of the way they used it. It was a proving ground. And it was just a fun way to tell stories you couldn't normally tell. You can't have your main characters die, but in What If, anything can happen. You can change whatever you like. So they can die. You can chop off Spider-Man's arm. You can do whatever. You can have fun with it. You can tell stories you wouldn't normally be able to tell in the mainstream Marvel universe because you have to keep the status quo over there. But over here, everything's fair game. No, sky's the limit. So, Uatu is he's kind of like the host. He's the crypt keeper of that book. He's the guy who's I've seen blah, blah, blah happen in this universe, but what if this happened instead? And that's the way every issue starts. He's not showing you an alternate universe. He's just musing on the possibilities. He's just going, what if Matt Murdock became a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent instead of Daredevil? He's not saying, oh no, that happened over here in an alternate universe, and I'll show it to you. He's just pondering. He's just going, but I wonder, what if we changed this? What if that happened instead? And here's the other thing too about the What If book. You're not meant to think that the Watcher is actually talking to you, the audience, and going, hey, I'm going to make a bunch of multiverses. That's not what he's doing. It's just a fun framing device for a comic book where anything can happen and none of it matters. That's all it's supposed to be. But that's not what it is in this show. I might have to take a little break and come back to this because this is going to piss me off. Can I control my microphone? Okay, cool. I can. Okay. I'm gonna be right back. Y'all can look at my cool Daredevil poster. Nobody's here. I don't even know who I'm talking to. I'll be right back. I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna mute this, refresh myself. I'll come back in, tell you about what Marvel just did with this show and why this video is titled what it is. Alrighty. So, we're talking about the what if concept and basically how it's completely different in this show. Because this show, while I don't necessarily know that it's going to be MCU canon, is here to set up the Marvel multiverse. That's its purpose. Now, as I said before, there is no Marvel multiverse. That's a thing they made up that they stole from DC. And what they're doing now with this show is taking one of DC's worst ideas, which is Tales from the Dark Multiverse. I didn't read those comics. This is all stuff I've gained from watching other channels like Comic Pop or people who talk about comics who are willing to read all that crap. The Dark Multiverse was a concept introduced by Grant Morrison from his Dark Knight's Metal series, which posits that if you flip over not Grant Morrison. It was introduced by Scott Snyder. Grant Morrison's to blame too, because he did that fucking stupid multiverse map. They flip over in the story Grant Morrison's multiverse map, and on the back there's a dark side of the multiverse called the Dark Multiverse, which is a multiverse but bad and dark. It's the mirror universe to the DC multiverse. So a multiverse is many, many multiple infinite universes that exist outside of the main DC universe. So the opposite to infinity is just darker infinity, despite the fact that many of the DC multiverses are fucking incredibly dark. All the Batman shit, all the Batman multiverses, dark as it fucking gets, but Dark Multiverse is worse, which is where the series Tales from the Dark Multiverse came in, which was sort of just a black label book where this fucking Watcher ripoff character called Tempest Fugonaut is looking at dark multiverses. And the reason he's doing this is because there's some kind of crazy cosmic conflict coming. Something to do with fucking Perpetua or whatever the fuck from Scott Snyder's run from Dark Knight's Metal. Or just whatever. Some bullshit Scott Snyder wrote. And essentially, he's doing a what if. He's like, what if this happened on this Earth? And he takes like actual events from DC, which then play out completely differently, usually creating a pretty cool alternate universe version of a character. And in the series, the whole idea is he's going to go to all these dark multiverses and recruit characters from those dark multiverses for some crazy coming conflict. That's what the What If show on Disney Plus is doing. The Watcher is looking at multiverses, and in this episode, something happens that makes him realize the multiverse can be accessed by other people besides him, and now he needs to go recruit all the characters you've seen from previous episodes, meaning Captain Carter, Star Panther, I guess a version of Captain Marvel, probably, because nobody really came out of that Avengers episode. A lot of people died. Evil Doctor Strange. Maybe Zombie Thanos, or Zombie Thanos will be a bad guy. Somebody from the zombies thing. As I'm saying, not enough of these produce like weird alternate versions of a character for them to do this, because that's not what If is supposed to do. I don't know, Party Thor, maybe? Probably. Howard the Duck. I don't know. Point being, the way this season is going to end is going to be with a big crazy crossover where all these crappy versions of characters meet each other and have to fight Ultron. So, I guess with that said, we'll get into this final episode. As much as I don't want to do this. So I'll do what I normally do. I'll play it. I'm going to go through the episode, stop when there's something to say, something to explain or dissect or analyze. Oh, man. I'm tired already. It's completely tangential and unrelated. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand. I know why. But I guess I didn't realize it before because he was like so ethereal and like shadowed, but like we got Black Watchers now. Because you couldn't just have Jeffrey Wright play Uatu. You had to make Uatu dark skinned and with African features, big lips, broad nose, and look like a big giant headed black guy. Which, like, yes, I understand the Watchers do look like big bald white dudes, but they don't really, they barely look like people. There aren't races of Watchers. They all look identical because they are identical. Because they're just like weird cosmic beings you're not supposed to know anything about. You're not supposed to wonder if there are other races or genders of fucking Watchers because that doesn't matter because no one cares about that. And that's not important to the story. But it is now because Jeffrey Wright's playing a Uatu, so he has to look like a black guy because we need representation in space. Anyway, like I said, unrelated. Okay, I'm going to cue up the episode. We'll go through it and see what we see. Alrighty. Turn this down a little bit. Not that YouTube pays attention to my channel, but they didn't ding me last time, but I don't want to chance it. Alright, skip the intro. Alright, watch your intro, blah, blah, blah.
We've seen this before. A universe in the final days of destruction. But this particular story, this one breaks my heart.
I don't know why this one breaks his heart. Okay, so post-apocalyptic Earth. I guess this is Russia? Because I thought it was New York. Then they revealed that's not the case. It just starts off with Black Widow and Hawkeye fighting Ultron robots. I'm trying to remember if there's anything important that happens in this spot. Not from my memory. Hawkeye stabbing some Ultrons. Blah, blah, blah. Getting attacked.
No, don't say it.
She's snarky about his arm.
Come on. I feel like you should know me by now. Puns aren't really my style. Well, what's left of it anyway.
So you really think the secret of armor around the world?
Okay, so they're breaking into this Russian building to
Shut up, Hawkeye.
find a way to beat Ultron.
The end of the world began with one man's dream. I see a suit of armor around the world. He saw a world of peace. With the Mind Stone, Tony Stark created Ultron.
Uh-huh.
But Ultron only saw one path to peace. The elimination of all life. From puppet to puppet master, Ultron required one thing, an organic body to call his
Makes
own.
vision.
One that fused the powers of man, machine, and mind into one. In your universe, the Avengers stole the cradle and used it to create the hero, Vision. But in this universe, Ultron got his wish.
Okay.
The infinite power of the Mind Stone, Ultron began to lay waste to the planet.
Okay. They don't explain how or what changed or why it was different because of what happened in Age of Ultron. But Ultron won. He downloaded his mind into Vision and then was just ultra powerful and conquered Earth, I guess. Sure. And then they do a thing that I hate that they always do, where they have to justify twofold why the most powerful characters didn't just save the day and fix it, and then also for the show, which they've done on numerous occasions already, why the two biggest name voice actors aren't in it and refused to do it. Because they have to always find a way to have Cap not be here, to have Tony not be here. Because they would fix the story because they're heroes and they would make it not be this way. So
We have to take out the satellite network.
So Hawkeye and Black Widow are going off to blow up some satellites all by themselves. Cap, Thor, and Hulk are already dead. And Tony's the last one alive.
Only a primitive mind would fail to see the distinction, which is why you have to die.
And then he just murders everybody and everything. And launches all the nukes. Yep.
Too late.
Yep. Boom, boom, boom. They fail. All right. Ultron's the best villain ever. He blows up Earth. Fucks it. Causes an apocalypse. He did it. Then this shit. Thanos comes to Earth out of a portal. With the Infinity Gauntlet with all the stones except the Mind Stone. And Vision Ultron cuts him in half down the middle with one laser, even though he's got an Infinity Gauntlet full of stones. Yep. So let's back up a little. What we have so far is we're not. I think there's some things that contradict it later as we continue. Maybe I'll stop skipping so I can find them. So we're starting off from Age of Ultron. Ultron wins. Fine. He gets the body. That makes him super powerful. Sure. Okay. Vision's very powerful. If Ultron were in it, yeah, he probably would have a pretty good chance at taking on the Avengers. He kills all the Avengers, no problem, all the strong ones, and then the weak ones escape, and he basically blows up Earth. Okay, I guess. Fine. Then Thanos, the biggest fucking villain in the entire goddamn MCU, comes out with all the stones except the Mind Stone, meaning like Infinity War mid-movie Thanos comes out of a portal with all the stones at the same time in 2015 during Age of Ultron. He went and got all the stones. Somehow, and walked out of a portal and got killed so Ultron could have all the stones, could have the Infinity Gauntlet, more or less. But he's going to integrate it into a suit of armor that's going to make him all powerful. How? How the fuck did that happen? How did that happen? Because Guardians 1 hasn't happened yet. The Power Stone's still on Morag. Quill will presumably that movie will play out, and then it'll be on Xandar. The Space Stone's on Asgard. The Time Stone's on Earth, and it hasn't left. Because I don't even know if Doctor Strange exists yet, but if he does, it's guarded in the Sanctum Sanctorum. Thanos can't get in there. He doesn't know where the Soul Stone is. The Reality Stone's with the Collector. All the things that happened in the MCU haven't happened for him to have all those. So what the fuck? Doesn't matter. The point is to get the stones into Ultron's hands so this story can happen. Doesn't matter that it doesn't make sense. They just said, no, fuck it. Also, apparently the Mind Stone's the most powerful stone, so you don't even need the other ones because you can just laser a guy who has all the other ones in half and he can't do anything about it. That's another thing, too, like I was saying with Wakanda, where I'm just seeing these running themes where they're just shitting on everything that came before. They're really pushing Wakanda and women, obviously. They're shitting on Thanos every opportunity they get. They're undermining everything Thanos did. They're undermining everything the Avengers do. They're just making all these big events that mattered and had weight and were important in the MCU just not matter. They just make them go away. They're not important anymore because they need this story to happen. That is called bad writing. When you have to do that, when you have to shit on someone else, when you have to step on them, lower them to raise yourself up, it's bad writing. You don't need to do it that way. There's a way you can honor everybody and still tell a cool story that's a little different. Anyway, that's how this episode really kicks off. Ultron Vision gets the stones from Thanos. And he integrates them into a suit of armor that resembles his Ultron body for reasons. Because it's cool looking, I guess it's the only real answer.
Everything. There are worlds beyond my own.
Now he knows he can conquer the galaxy, blah, blah, blah. So he's going to use the Infinity Stones to create an army of Ultrons out of nothing, which, yeah, fine, it can do that. Thanos didn't do that shit, but he's not as smart as Ultron, I guess. So
I knew when to bring about peace in our time.
creates a crazy time ship. Okay, so it's still 2015. Okay, so this actually pissed me off while I was watching it, and I got very confused. Some of these I'm going to be wrong about, some of these I'm going to be right about. He basically goes on a campaign throughout the galaxy to destroy all these planets. Now, at the time, I was thinking Asgard shouldn't exist. Obviously, I'm wrong, because this is Age of Ultron timeline, so this is like 2015-ish. So, you know what? Actually, I was wrong. Guardians did happen. So the Power Stone would have been on Xandar. But that would also mean Thanos would have had to lay waste to Xandar to get it. Which I don't know how he did, because Xandar's fine. We're about to see here. It hasn't been attacked. Which is something they say in Infinity War. He had to decimate Xandar to get the stone. Which apparently he was able to do. He just waged war on him and got it somehow. In Infinity War. It's not really a plot hole from there. It's just something they do off screen. You kind of wish you got some explanation for, but yeah, so many of the others, there's just no way. I guess it was because he was trying to figure out where they all were. But by the time of Age of Ultron, I don't know, maybe he did just know where they all are, but I don't know how he got them. Some of them, anyway. Well, that's just it. So he has the Space Stone. So the Space Stone's on Asgard, which at this point is being ruled by Loki, but he hasn't been there yet, because Asgard's fine, as we see right here. Ultron pops up, destroys Asgard with the Power Stone. It wasn't destroyed before. I don't know how he got the Space Stone. Then they go to the Sovereign, blow them up, whatever, fuck them. Oh, that's right. The Guardians are there. So this is like, never mind. This is so stupid. Because also, I think Guardians 2 takes place like 3 months after Guardians 1, which means it should be before Age of Ultron. But whatever. Yeah. So the Guardians are on the Sovereign's planet doing the thing they're doing at the beginning of Guardians 2. And Gamora's there. Which means Thanos didn't interrogate her to find out where the Soul Stone was. And didn't sacrifice her to get it. So he shouldn't have it. So this shouldn't be happening. But it is. They lay waste to the Guardians. Sakaar. Grandmaster. Ego. He blows up Ego. That blows my mind. Then Xandar, which is perfectly fine and not attacked, which means they would still have the Power Stone. But they destroy Xandar. Oh, they almost destroy Xandar. Then Captain Marvel shows up. A whole lot of fucking help she is. Makes a bad Terminator joke. And not knowing that he would be at all, assumes he's from Earth and would get that, or that would be a relevant joke. I don't know. And she drills into the center of the fucking Earth. I hate how powerful they make Captain Marvel in the MCU. She's not. Carol Danvers is one of them. Was pretty powerful, but she's not fucking... She's beyond Superman in the MCU. Tries to kill Ultron, and he just annihilates the entire planet with her in it. which I guess kills her. Oh, and then he blows up like all of the planets, like the entire galaxy. Because he can just do that. With the Infinity Stones, yeah, he probably could.
He's done.
He destroys everything.
At last. The realization nearly broke the machine. With his mission complete, Ultron was now just a program without a purpose. The victor without a war, sentenced to spend all of eternity alone. Who said that? Basking in the boundless silence.
This is the turn that's supposed to make you crap your pants and go, oh, holy shit. Which is that, I guess, with the power of the Infinity Stones, he's hyper aware of the universe. And he's able to hear Uatu, who doesn't exist within the Marvel universe. He exists outside of it, observing the multiverse, which shouldn't exist. But neither should this Ultron or any of the things that happened in this episode up to this point. So fuck that, moving forward. Because they just fucking threw everything out the window. Like, there's just no point to anything.
Ascended to a previously unattainable level of consciousness.
Yeah.
He became aware.
Became hyper conscious. That's funny.
Became aware.
Owatu's narrating what's happening, not realizing it involves him. Like, he doesn't get he's in the story.
Were universes beyond my own.
And he just like changes the channel. He's like, no, don't look at me.
Never could happen. And yet,
Ugh, you
what the hell is this?
dumb shit.
If a
I'm sorry, Black Uatu looks very weird.
Even I cannot imagine the horrors that might follow. No. Even that machine is not as invincible as it might think. There is still hope for this universe.
Yeah, he's gonna break all the rules and intervene and do the thing that Owatu does, which is fuck shit up. All right, and then Clint and Natasha, the only two surviving Avengers,
Welcome to the KGB archive.
have to go flip through the KGB archives, which is just a bunch of endless halls of papers and files.
Yeah, I think we learned that the hard way. So, where do we start?
Just pick a box.
So they just go and they just start looking through an endless supply of files.
Yeah.
And then we just have a long, boring montage of them looking at files.
Oh,
Oh yeah, she finds Red Guardian's shield,
this is my color.
which
Come on. Don't try to make this fun. Nah. My will to live meter is flatlining. Okay?
I like that Hawkeye's actually like, no, shut the fuck up. We're not telling jokes right now. This sucks. Everything's shitty.
The answer.
She finds a fucking Red Guardian shield, which makes the exact same sound as Cap's shield, so I think you're supposed to believe it's made of vibranium. Which how? How though?
Lives.
Doesn't matter. They didn't think about that. So Uatu's trying to get them to find the thing that's going to help them out,
Yes.
which is a particular file. Then Clint gives up hope, and
Pointless.
If we want to take down Ultron.
oh yeah, Uatu's trying very hard to get Clint to see a file right next to him, which is the key to everything, which is going to fix it.
The Death Star plans are not in the
But Hawkeye gives up,
Okay. We've all lost some light.
Mind is a little
and then
analog.
first try, Natasha finds the file
Grab it.
that he wants her to find.
Way.
A thing that shouldn't exist.
Let's just say-
Another thing that shouldn't exist that's going to solve all their problems.
Stop it. That, you found it? That was my box.
An old Hydra base in Siberia.
Zola. What is that, an acronym?
He's a man, or at least he was, and he is going to help us wipe out Ultron.
Okay.
They did it. They really did it. There's still hope.
So they found a file on Arnim Zola in the KGB archives. Which I don't think makes any sense, but I could be wrong. Hydra infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D., but it's also implied in Civil War and a few other places that they infiltrated a lot of places, including probably the Russian government, the Soviet Union. So they may have had people in the Soviet Union. Because Winter Soldier was a Hydra agent, but he was based out of Siberia. So this file could be here, but what this file brings up and what they use to their advantage in this episode, again, impossible. I'm not going to say impossible. Unlikely, not set up, just kind of pulled out of their asses, which is that there's another copy of Arnim Zola's consciousness at the exact same base from Civil War. We were led to believe in Winter Soldier, because that's the only time he ever appears, and then he dies and we don't see him again, is that on some very old computer technology, Arnim Zola's brain is stored down in the secret S.H.I.E.L.D. server room full of databanks that have his entire mind imprinted on them. Meaning that computer room at the base in Jersey, that's where Zola is. He's not on a flash drive. You can't just upload him. His brain is on those files. And a human brain cannot be put in something so small. So that's where he is. And we're led to believe that's the only place he can be. He lives down there in that secret S.H.I.E.L.D. base where he's been slowly rebuilding Hydra. And that's it. But then we come to find, oh no, wait, there's another one. Moving on. Oh no. Ultron somehow breaks the barrier through the multiverse into where Uatu is. Yeah, they go to Siberia.
Supervise the Russian super soldier program.
Oh, it sounds like a real bitch.
Yeah.
You sure you want to put all
They say he was in charge of the Russian super soldier program. We get no indication of that at all in the movies. And there's an extra copy of Zola in there. They boot him up. He does the thing from Winter Soldier.
I imagine you have many questions, Fräulein, about who and what and how I am.
Not really. I've actually met you before. Well, a copy of you. It's a long story.
Yeah.
We need your help.
She says she met a copy of him, so that's the only line we get. There was more than one, but we didn't know that, but she does now. I have a very hard time believing that because it's the sort of thing where I'm like, yeah, if he worked that way, if he could be just a computer program that could go anywhere, he would have. Someone would have fucking downloaded him. He'd be on the fucking internet. You know, if he wasn't stuck in that room, he would have been other places. We would have seen more of him. He probably would have been a recurring antagonist because he'd been like Ultron, a fucking AI of a former Hydra scientist. You can't just copy. No, bullshit. Anyway, I can't really refute it. They just say, yep, nope, there's two copies of him. Like, okay, fine. I don't have a great counter argument. It just doesn't, it wasn't set up, and I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense.
Actually, pretty much everyone else is dead.
Courtesy of an AI called Ultron.
But I assume you want me to infiltrate his code and dismantle it from the inside?
You did a pretty good number on S.H.I.E.L.D. the same way.
But why, pray tell? Would you think that my strategic objectives would ever align with yours?
Because you're the last surviving Solar copy left on Earth. And I've ruined a lot of that.
Also, he said you're the last surviving Zola copy left on Earth, as though he knew about it before just now and could prove that. It's like, you don't know, Clint. You're just bluffing.
Like to order a pizza?
So he agrees to help them.
So you might feel a little poke here.
They download him into an era, which they can do for some reason.
You snag one, plug you in. 90 seconds later, you give the big guy a piece of your mind.
Well, he will not be the first.
They torch the computer, the hard drives, then the Ultrons come in and attack the base, which they lured here so that they could get one to upload Zola into his network. Here's Natasha using Red Guardian's shield, which is exactly like Cap's shield, meaning it's probably made of vibranium. How'd they get it? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Clint's got some ridiculous arrows in this too. Alright, they're trying to upload Zola onto Ultron's network, but it doesn't work. They get attacked. Apparently he's out of range. That's what they say. So then all these Ultrons are attacking. Clint needs to make a heroic sacrifice for reasons. And then he unleashes like what I can only describe as a fucking nuke arrow, which he has now and would have been way useful. Probably that time they fought Ultron and others. They also had a bunch of other crazy shit like an energy net and then like a giant energy barrier arrow. Like, he's just got ridiculous shit in this episode. They blow up the base. Widow and Zola escape.
I still don't get it. Why weren't you able to connect to the hive?
It's curious. According to my diagnostics, the sentries are rigged for interstellar communication.
Meaning
Right.
what?
Wherever Ultron is, it does not appear to be within the observable universe.
Then where is
Zola works out that he's crossed universes into this sort of multiversal hall that Uatu resides in. They're having a big magic spaceman fight with big lasers. So apparently Uatu's pretty powerful.
I don't understand. This should not be possible.
Oh, but anything is possible in a multiverse.
Yeah, good thing that there isn't one. So, yeah, he's just smacking Uatu through multiverses. I think I kind of tuned out of this part because I didn't actually pay attention. I was just so fucking done with it. Oh, he just levels a forest on an alien planet.
Suffering. You just watched. I swore an oath. I cannot exert my will in the natural order of things. I cannot intervene. I am the order of things. I will bring peace. It is my purpose. You stop.
Yeah, but Uatu does a Power Rangers power up, gets some cool armor. Okay. Uatu's super powerful, I guess. Smashing through fucking glass walls that apparently make up reality. And then he's gonna eat a planet or a galaxy. I don't know. Ultron got real big. I don't know. This shit's nonsense. It all looks really cool. Can't say any of it makes any sense. And they should travel to an alternate universe where Steve Rogers is being inaugurated as the president. That's kind of a cool Easter egg.
Wow, isn't this more fun than just watching? To be honest, it's a lot less creepy on your part.
He's just changing reality with every punch.
The boundaries of the multiverse are irrelevant to beings like you and me. I didn't evolve by staying inside the body.
Yeah, sorry, and I'm not saying much. I guess I didn't really watch this part. I was kind of fed up. Uatu escapes somewhere.
Watch. It doesn't matter. From here, I can see everything. No one
So I guess Uatu put himself in the same dimension as the evil Doctor Strange from that one episode.
Been there. Been living the dream alone in a prison of my own making ever since. Are you ready to break your oath?
You want me to say it?
Oh yeah. I want to hear you say it.
Okay. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I see now. I need your help.
I guess that must be a reference to the Doctor Strange episode. I can't remember. There might have been some interaction between Strange and Uatu in that, sort of also implying that powerful enough beings can perceive him. But yeah, that's it. Not a whole lot of stuff happens. It mostly just breaks everything. I don't know what else to say. It's fucking the whole, again, they have to jump through so many hoops to get to where they want to go, and where they want to go shouldn't exist. Like, I don't know how else to put it. They want to do some really cool looking things that don't make any goddamn sense. But where this is leading is, like I said, they're taking their best idea. This is what they got. This is the only thing they've got on Disney Plus at the moment. They're taking their best idea from DC's worst idea, the Dark Multiverse. Tempest Fugonaut, who was a fucking joke, like, he was just a ripoff of the Watcher, is now being ripped off by the Watcher. The Watcher is Tempest Fugonaut. He's going to go to all these dark multiverses and get these alternate versions of heroes together so they can go fight Ultron, because now Ultron's the master of the multiverse. I genuinely sometimes feel like these guys didn't watch the MCU. Same thing with a lot of the showrunners for these Disney Plus shows. I don't think they did. I don't think it's a requirement. I don't think the production house even cares. I think they're just like, yeah, right, whatever. Fuck it. Fuck it. Just make us a thing. Just pump out content. It doesn't have to be good or make any sense. We just need it so the app can stay alive. So yeah, I imagine there'll be a few more episodes, and then at the end of the season, they'll recruit some people, and Uatu and Dr. Evil will fucking go fight Ultrabot and save the universe, the multiverse, whatever. Marvel doesn't need a multiverse. Multiverses are stupid. Multiverses cause problems. Multiverses, they unhinge your storytelling, and they take away a lot of the restrictions that I think force people to write better stories that make more sense, because at any point you can just say, fuck it, it didn't happen, or we're going to tell that story over there. And it just allows you too much free range to not really structure your universe or your stories in a way that makes sense. I would argue the opposite case is true for something like Rick and Morty, where the whole point is the absurdity. It's a comedy. And in a comedy, you can have anything happen at any time anyway. That show just liked the idea of fucking around with portals and alternate universes to facilitate that. And even in that, they still place restrictions on themselves and say, nope, this works this way. We don't ever deviate from that. Whereas in this, it's like, this is a more serious story. If you introduce a multiverse, you've now just opened up the ability to invalidate your storytelling at any point. You know, as opposed to just being a really cool anthology series, which it could have been, now it's going to be an overarching story set in a multiverse, and they've given themselves a canon and a timeline and a plot for what if the show that's supposed to just be a bunch of crazy one-off episodes that don't have to matter, but now they do, because now they're all intertwined by this multiversal madness plot. So, not a great idea. One of the worst episodes. Very superficial, like really cool shit. Like I must have been on my phone the first time I watched that fight scene between Ultron and Uatu. Cool. Stupid. Doesn't make sense, but it's very cool looking, very flashy. I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, just figured I would do a little recap of everything leading up to the review of that episode. Like I said, I don't have like a system for how or when or why I make videos. I kind of just get on here and live stream and talk about shit when I have strong feelings on it. And yeah, no, I'll just go from there. If I keep watching and there's more to talk about, I will. Like I said, I don't really have any plans to talk about anything in particular. If I get any feedback from anyone, anything, I mean, second live stream, nobody comes on here. I would love to have some people come on live, talk about some stuff, give me some ideas, discuss some things. If there's stuff you're interested in, I'd be more than happy to check it out. A lot of stuff I've just skipped because as much as I love Marvel, they're just not making anything worth seeing anymore. I didn't watch Shang-Chi. I probably won't watch it when it comes to Disney Plus. I'm not planning on watching the Eternals. I will watch Spider-Man. I will watch Doctor Strange. Probably watch Thor. Weirdly enough, the Hawkeye trailer, I've heard a lot of people being negative on it because, again, yes, they are clearly positioning up the MCU to be like mostly female, which is really funny. I remember a lot of people when Endgame came out saying like they would be down for like an all-female Marvel superhero movie, which is what that scene when all the women come together seemed to be setting up. And for me, even watching that in the movie, I didn't hate it because I was like, look, it is stupid. None of those women know each other and none of them were on that exact spot in the battlefield. And also Captain Marvel didn't fucking need any of their help. She's so goddamn powerful. But that whole movie is fan service. And for me, I was okay with seeing the women come together because for me, a lot of what happened in that final battle, including like the two armies charging at each other, is comic book homages. They're all just things you would see on a comic book page. And that big, huge splash page of all the women coming together, you would see that. Like I have seen that comic book panel. And because so much other goofy, self-referential shit had already happened, and it was clearly the magnum opus, it was the big hurrah for Marvel, their kind of send off. I'm like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with doing that in the big event movie. Well, what was funny is everybody said after that, like, you know what they're doing? They're teeing off for an A-Force movie, a big female Avengers movie, as though that was going to be like the spin-off, like that was going to be one of the many movies they will do. That'll be its own thing over here, and then we'll still do mainline superhero origin stories and one-off adventures and Avengers movies, and then we'll do an A-Force movie. That'll be one of our team movies. Little did they know, they were actually just teeing up the Marvel Universe to be all female, because they're just doing Marvel now. And I think a lot of people started saying it, they're like, yeah, there will be an all-female Avengers movie. It's called Avengers 5. The next Avengers movie, all the fucking characters are going to be female because they're killing off all the men and replacing them with women who are better and stronger and smarter and just all the best and self-trained and have no flaws. And how dare you talk down to them? Having said that, though, knowing that is where they're going, knowing Jeremy Renner probably doesn't have a whole lot of, Marvel performances in him. I saw the trailer for Hawkeye, and it actually looks good. Kate in the comics is that. She's the obnoxious, strong female character. She's a pretentious, mean, condescending prodigy who's just good at everything and makes Clint look like a doofus. And the show, which is played by Haley Steinfeld, it doesn't seem to be that. She is flawed. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's in over her head. And Clint is the old pro badass, like father figure, mentor type who's like, I gotta pull this kid's ass out of the fire and then get back to, he's got to do a Die Hard. He's got to get home to his family for Christmas. And they're taking bits and bobs from the Matt Fraction series, My Life as a Weapon. And I am hesitant because they've been making some really crappy things on Disney Plus, but like that actually looks good. So I'm going to watch that. I pray it will be good. And I really hope it is. And if it is good, I'll talk about it anyway, because yeah, if they make a good thing, I would love to discuss. The problem is I started making videos just when everything was shit. And a lot of the live action ones are so bad, I really don't want to go back and dissect them and try to tell you why they're shitty. Like, I literally don't have enough words in my body to tell you why Loki and Falcon and Winter Soldier are bad shows. But they are. WandaVision was good. I genuinely liked WandaVision. The one criticism I had that everyone else shares is Monica is way too forgiving of Wanda. That's about it. I even like the character of Monica. I much prefer her to Carol Danvers. Like, I'm glad the Captain Marvel sequel is The Marvels, and she will be front and center as well, because I'm not going to really care about Kamala Khan's TV series, and I'm not going to watch it. And Carol can fuck herself, but Monica's cool. Like, I like Monica, and her powers are dope, and I would like to see more of her. And yeah, WandaVision as a whole, I thought was a really good show. I thought it was fun. It had the big ridiculous finale ending, but I liked it, and I liked what it was setting up, and I liked that it was setting up Wanda as a bad guy. It was setting up the kids, the young Avengers. It was doing some stuff. It brought Vision back. It actually made me give a shit about Wanda and Vision for the first time, which I think a lot of people felt that way because they are kind of one note in the movies. They don't get a whole lot to do. And that show really delved into them and their relationship and who they are. And I thought it was great. So yeah, we'll see. Give me some feedback. Let me know if you guys are interested in talking about certain stuff or stuff you'd like me to watch or do or talk about. Feel free. But yeah, until then, we'll see. If something strikes me the right way and I feel like talking about it, I'll come back. So until next time, thank you, everybody. Bye. Boy, fucker.